Tell your story, build your brand. artmedianorthwest.com. artmedianw.com. Now, enjoy this conversation with Gyuszi Sütő. Your new book is out.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. So I have a friend in Hungary, Zoli, and we have been friends for many, many years. We had lots of adventures together, and he has a daughter, and I saw his daughter grow, and about age 14, she started drawing beautiful drawings. And at the time when I saw the drawings, I said, somebody must write a storybook to match these beautiful drawings. And that idea was kind of there. And then I had a granddaughter 2.5 years ago, and then when she was born, I was kind of motivated and inspired to write. And I wrote 2 stories in this book. And the first one is a shorter story. It's about the dynamics between a father and the son. And they're talking, the father is trying to persuade his son to eat an apple. The son is sick, is in bed. And then I weave stories about a grandfather and a granddaughter and bees and how fruits are grown and how they become ripe and get all the nutrients from the ground. And I kind of draw from my parental grandfather at that line, father and grandfather, whose picture's up on the wall. The 4 of us are there with my father, grandfather, great-grandfather down there. And so all of those 4 men, they had the same name as I have.
Okay.
And they all shared this deep love of nature, like really deep, visceral love of nature.
Yeah.
And they looked at the leaves and at the bugs and at the weather and the wind and the water, and just constantly it was in their vocabulary, in their habits, in their lifestyle, in their theme, right? It's like the flower is flowering, the other one's not, and this is this, and the bee is there, and the honey is here. And so I grew up in this environment. They would always gather medicinal flowers and dry them in the attics, so all the attics were full of stuff, some dry and some eaten by rodents, some healthy, some not healthy, but always doing stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the father and grandfather were all beekeepers, and then 2 of my uncles were beekeepers, and then my aunt's husband was beekeeper. So when we used to go to my grandfather's house, there was always, beeswax and beekeeping equipment, and I had to help them from early age. And I was stung by the first bee when I was 1 year old. I started to walk, and I got my first kind of baptizing, So
Never thought of it that way.
right, and so they were very, very close to nature,
Mm-hmm.
even though they lived in a relatively small town. And I think from all of those people that I knew, they were the most closest to nature.
Okay.
And my father would take me all the time to the outside. So pretty much every weekend I was in the woods, like for 20 years. And I see that, some, in modern lifestyle, you kind of get divorced from. You look at a true fruit, you have no idea where it's coming from. It may come from Mexico, may come from a greenhouse, may come from, hydroponics, whatever. You don't know what it is.
Right.
But that organic thing, that how things are, how do they grow and how do they make flowers and how do the bees pollinate and what role they are playing in this whole thing. And this harmony of nature and nutrients and stuff. And I wanted to pass that on to kind of like a educational story. And also a lot of my dialogues with my sons was similar to that. So that's the first story, kind of like the lighter one of the 2 stories.
Sure.
The second story is, I think that carries the weight of the book, the second story. And that one is probably like 2 or 3 stories weaved together. There's like
the
3
siblings.
Yeah, the siblings. So there's like 3 generations in there, and then some are related to each other, some are not related to each other, and they have some common themes that kind of bring them together for a day. And I'm not going to give away the story, but so I think it draws on first my relationship with my sister. Mm-hmm. We had a very good relationship, and we did a lot of stuff together. So kind of the siblings, the first couple of siblings, kind of modeled them, and then I saw a lot of strife. I don't know if that's the right word, strife.
Yeah.
In several families that were related to me, direct families or neighboring families, and the common theme was that siblings would argue over some inheritance that at the time may have been important to them,
And
like
felt like something significant.
right,
but-
like financially, or maybe just the fact that I inherited this from my dying parents, like a sigh, like the grass cutting sigh, or a sharpening stone that they never used after that. They inherited and it sat in the mud for 40 years. And I just looked at this thing, and 40 years later, then the sibling comes and start arguing, why do you have the sharpening stone? You never used it. And then my aunt would say, well, you have the sigh, you never used that. And they were like 85 years old and half blind, half deaf, arguing about these two objects that are totally irrelevant, right? And then some of them would not talk for decades. And I was not allowed to go from one house to the other, even though I have lots of relatives at like biking or walking distance. And then I had to not tell one family that I visited the other family, because I wanted to go everywhere.
That's sad.
And then I was instructed, well, if you go there, don't tell the other ones that you went there. And then if you eat apple pie, they only eat half, because if you go to the other one, they're also going to give you apple pie, but you cannot tell the first family that you already are full or whatever, like this. And then like 50 years later, they would become friends. Then another couple of siblings would get in argument. And then, so it was like stupid stuff like that. And somehow in Eastern Europe, they're like masters of it. Maybe in the US also, but I haven't been exposed as much in the US to this kind of stuff. But there is like, they made an art form out of it. So I just wanted to kind of weave that into the story.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully illustrate that, those stupid things don't
Right,
have to get in the way
right,
of these relationships that
right.
are important. Yeah.
And then I had my nieces, they went to Romania. They were, I don't know, teenagers. They saw one of these strifes. They actually, and they were US, so they were not intimately familiar. They heard that there was something, but they went there as like, naive American children to go and visit the loving and caring relatives in Romania. And turns out they ended up in the middle of a strife. And they were looking, what's going on? We are not familiar with this. And then actually they held hands and said, then they whispered to each other that we're never going to do this, right?
Yeah.
And
That's powerful.
right. So, if I think the second story is both for children and adults. I think children will get one part of it, and if they read the book 20 years later, they were going to get the second part of it, or the second meaning
Yeah.
of it.
Well, I know that's a beautiful thing about books too, is that we can continuously learn things from them and see things we didn't see before,
Right.
So-
Well, I hope I haven't sold many, so I don't know if it's going to be successful or not. I really, when it came out, it reflects what I wanted the book to be. So
Yeah.
it is me. The book is me. Whether people will like it or not, or will become popular, that's the second part. But I put it out there what was part of me.
Yeah. And that's what art is, I think that illustrates it in a great way.
And with Liza, the illustrator, I wanted to mention that she has a very, very delicate soul, and she tunes in very much to my stories. And I saw that early on.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I don't have to tell her anything. Like a couple of sentences, she gets it, and she just reflects that feeling, right? I didn't have to instruct her what to draw. She volunteered. She
ran
almost
with
like
it.
just jumped on the opportunity to draw. And now I'm writing another book, my memoir, childhood memoir, and I will ask her to illustrate. But that's a totally different theme, right? It's teenage boys doing crazy things. So I don't know what kind of drawing she would come up with, but
Sure.
she's very creative. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Well, I will put links to the book definitely on the website and on the podcast.
Well, I
when
appreciate
this
that.
comes out. Yeah, and I would encourage everybody to check it out because it really is very cool and a unique story and unique artwork. Everything can be enjoyed by adults and children of all ages, and it's available on Amazon and in local bookstores oftentimes. It is called The Siblings and Other Stories by Gyuszi Sütő. Can you say your name correctly?
Gyuszi Sütő, or actually the way it's pronounced in Hungarian is Gyuszi Sütő. Sütő means
Sütő.
baker.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
So can you tell us about your childhood?
So I grew up in Romania, and Romania was probably at the bottom of the totem pole of the Eastern European countries. Like East Germany was way better off financially. Hungary was way better off. Poland was way better off. Soviet Union was way better off. Yugoslavia was way better off. Czechoslovakia was, and Romania was at the bottom, right? And then inside Romania, I lived in a poor town, which was at the bottom of Romania, right? And then I was an ethnic minority, so even within that, being at the bottom, you're even the bottom of the bottom.
Can you speak about that, being an ethnic minority in Romania?
So
in Transylvania.
Right. So Transylvania was a part of either the Ottoman Empire, Hungary was part of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy, part of Romania, and there were lots of minorities living there. So Hungarians were like 2 million people, and then lots of Germans. And then after World War I, Romania got Transylvania, and we lived there along them. And then during communism, Ceausescu really wanted to kind of discriminate against the Hungarians. He just hated them. Kind of like Trump, discriminates against Latinos or Mexicans, or he keeps saying bad things. So he was kind of that thing. And to an extent that, for example, there were no officers in the army, Hungarian officers. There were no policemen. There were no leaders. There were no CEOs, no directors, Hungarian, or just very rarely. I mean, it was not even close to representative of the makeup of the population. And they wouldn't let us use our language. So they were like, they tried to close the Hungarian school that were there for 500 years, and they tried like everything to close them down. My mother was a Hungarian teacher. They tried to like annihilate her, not let her teach, take away everything she had. Like she was clinging to this opportunity to teach the sweet maternal tongue, the Hungarian language, which is a very special language because it's not related to anything.
Right.
It's like it kind of came from outer space. Like it's like totally different and has its own value system, its own mathematics and all that. And so it is valuable, right? But the Romanians didn't see it that way. And mostly the locals didn't have the locals lived along Hungarians for centuries, so they didn't bother. But the government was definitely anti-Hungarian.
Wow.
And then so like I went and asked for money for something, and the Romanian gets twice as much as I do. We have the same rights, same everything, and they just so many I don't want to get into too many details. So imagine if blacks would not be allowed to be officers in the military. Like you go and you look at 1,000 officers, not one black. Right, that would be something that would say that's not representative.
Something's not right about
or
this.
Not one
Yeah.
Latino, or not one Asian American.
Right.
Then you say there's something there that's not right.
Right. Wow. So that was in that way, it was a very rough upbringing. Now your father was a big influence on you in many ways. So can you speak about that? How you became an artist?
Right.
I mean, I think of you, if I start with, art, karate, you're an engineer, you play music, you sing, you windsurf, you ski, you climb mountains, you teach karate. I'm sure I'm missing like 80 other things.
Now that you're putting it in a list, it may sound like a long list. Well, I think first of all, I want to live the life at its fullest.
Yes.
And I don't believe in afterlife. So what you see is what you get. That's my belief system, and some people may or may not agree with me on that. I was very fortunate, actually. Looking back, with all the bad things and the grayness and coldness of communism, there were a lot of very bright spots in my life.
Yeah.
First of all, I was surrounded by a lot of loving women, and they just loved me to death. My mother, we had an in-house nanny for 5 years that actually slept in our bedroom, and so my grandmothers all loved me. My sister, who was 3 years older, she babied me all my life. My aunts, I had a godmother, I had a baroness teacher for 8 years. So how many people have a noble person come to your house and, well, you're a noble person, Danny, but this was a true
So
baroness.
I didn't know this was a comedy.
Elizabeth von Blomberg, right? And she was, they had like a giant villages and lakes and hundreds of horses. And then after World War II, they lost it all. And their parents died. And there was this ultra-educated woman with nothing left. And then she made a living by teaching languages. So every week, twice, she would come to my house, teach me German. And then we just talked in German about the monarchy and the life in Germany and the life in Paris and the horses they had. And like she put me in this Alice in Wonderland alternative reality.
Yeah,
right?
This is not the upbringing of very many people I know.
Exactly. I mean, the communists were going to like steel factories, thousands of them in these gray machine shops and no colors, like the picture of the dictator. And here I am with the baroness. I'm in Vienna drinking coffee, not coffee. We didn't have coffee, but talking about, so, that took me in this interesting universe.
Sort of an alternate reality in a way.
Yeah. I was really fortunate. And my father pushed this. I mean, he saw that she's like very special. And she just okay, you got to take the lesson. And I didn't want at the beginning. I don't want to like, you're a boy, you want to go and run outside. And no, you need the lesson. And then, so my godfather and godmother, my godfather was a political prisoner. So actually, they didn't baptize me until I was 6 because he was in prison. He was in prison because he wrote something about ethnic minorities across the Carpathian Mountains, on the other side of the Carpathian Mountains. And the Romanian government didn't want that to become public because they said the Hungarians are only on the west side of the Carpathian Mountains. And he proved that there's actually on the east side of the Carpathian Mountains also Hungarians. So they put him in jail, so they had to wait for him to come out. And he was a painter, and quite an accomplished painter, and also professor at the Arts Institute.
Oh, wow.
And then his wife used to be his student, and she was a textile artist. So I would go to them all the time, and they had books and paintings everywhere, and textile and silk coloring. And so I would go there. There was this cavalcade, I don't know if I pronounce it right, like a smorgasbord of colors and art. And then I would take my drawings to my godfather, and he would like say, no, that's not how you draw the eye. You have to draw this, the eyelid, that. He would never say a good word. He would just say, no, it's, stunken, it's bad, this, that. But I would keep at it. I didn't care because I was always surrounded by a lot of good teachers, and they would constantly tell me how to fix it. And it's part of who I am. That's why I don't take criticism bad at all. You can say that I suck and I will work harder. That's it. I'm not taking it that at all. And even in karate, I went to Japan last month, and I'm 56, and I bow my head in front of the 42-year-old All Japan champion, and I say, oath and teach me because you're better than me. And so I got a lot from them on that part. And then
that's a gift, being able to not let criticism get under your skin.
Right. And there was another angle. The other angle was that my mother was Unitarian, and it's a very interesting religion because it's the only religion that came from Transylvania. So they actually started from the Kolozsvár, the city of Cluj in Romanian, right? And this started in 1540. And so it was, the whole Europe was Catholic, like devout Catholic. And then some Reformation started in Germany, right, with Calvin and Luther. And they went, let's say if on a scale from 1 to 10, Catholicism is a 10, then Lutheranism is maybe an 8 or maybe a 7, and the Unitarian was like a 1. I went way off the scale. Like they said that, there's
as far as how different it was?
Yes, like
in the theology?
Like the other religion, the other reformant religions, they said, okay, well, we don't recognize the Pope, but then still the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and there's still life after death, and there's still a hell and heaven, and still there's a God who listens to you all the time and all that stuff, right?
So there was a good 80% that was the same.
Right. It covered most of it, right? And then, and that Jesus was a divinity. And then here comes this dude in Cluj in 1540, like Middle Ages, right? He stands on a stone and he says, actually, Jesus was not divine. He was a man. They just wrote a book about his teachings. And we should take the book as a book. It's mostly true. And and the Pope, has nothing to do with this. And, and you shouldn't, and there's no heaven and no hell. And it became so popular that the entire city switched to Unitarianism in like a month.
Wow.
Imagine going to Salt Lake City, Utah, standing on a stone and turning all Mormons into a different religion, like a religion X. I mean, that has to be a very good speech.
That would be some speech.
That would be some speech.
Yeah,
right?
Like Martin Luther King.
Yeah, even more, because, for Martin Luther King message takes decades.
Right, true.
To really listen. And so what happened is that there was this culture of not really expecting God to do good for you. Is you were expected to do good stuff yourself. You had to be proactive. So the people that I was exposed to, they were like, yeah, there's no life after death. We have X number of days left, so we better build it or do it or paint it or draw it or, right? And And then my sister's godfather was the bishop of the Unitarian Church. So on Sundays, I would go to church with my mother, then we would go to my godfather and godmother, who are both teachers at the university, the top arts university in Cluj. Then we go to the bishop, right? And we talk about religion. And I'm like 6 years old, like I'm a kid. Then I go home, I go and have a baroness teaching me German and teach me about Paris and the horse races they used to attend and the balls they had on the lake with a live orchestra while they were floating on the lake on a pontoon.
Wow.
in 1930, before World War II. And, just these big things, right? And then I have my father, grandfather, great-grandfather all doing bees and wood and wax and cutting and sharpening tools. And I was building bows and slingshots and this. And then we lived in a valley in a small town. And there were two hills, kind of and then one of the hills was our backyard. And it was like I was there all the time for like 15, 16 years. I was in the woods with my slingshot and with my bow and with 20 other guys just running like crazy. Right? That freedom was unbelievable. Now, at the time, it felt like that this is normal.
This is normal, yeah.
Now I think, kids in Hillsborough, I kind of feel sorry for them. They cannot experience that freedom.
No.
Not even close.
It's a different place and time.
It's not even close. And actually, I'm thinking that if we were to design a city from scratch, we should try to design that freedom for children. Somehow build it in by constitution that children should have the ability to safely play from age 6 to 18 with no parental supervision. I think that's a huge, huge, huge value. In a clean, non-polluted environment, safe. So that's how I grew up, right?
Yeah.
That's the 11 minutes version. That they have
That's
like
okay.
11-hour version.
Yeah. Can we talk about, there's a very cool story about your dad foresting a hillside, right?
Right. I mentioned how closely he was tied to nature.
Yes.
And he was also a beekeeper and all that. And he was teaching math to everybody. Like, I remember him always sitting and teaching or going out with his bees or his bicycle. That was his mode of operation. And this was before I was born. He was teaching a director of a giant nursery, like a giant communist nursery, math, so he can actually pass his high school diploma equivalent examination because he didn't have it. So he taught him for a couple of years and for free. He would teach for free for like 15 years. He just didn't charge nothing. Sometimes he would do 6 hours teaching. After the 4-hour teaching in the morning, he would come home and eat, go back at 2 and then till 8 p.m. just do math for free for like 50 kids.
Wow.
Whoever wanted to show up for extra tutoring, he would just squeeze the butter out of them and just pump as much math in their brains as possible. And then he would come home and we had nothing. We were poor. And then when I was, 15 years old, I was growing and needed meat. Then he started teaching for meat, and they would bring him a piece of meat and we would eat a little bit of meat. But this was before I was born. So this guy is coming to him for, I don't know, every week or so. And then he passes his exam and he's very appreciative. And he tells my dad, so how can I pay you back? And my dad said, don't worry. I just did it out of, for fun. And the guy said, no, I really want, I want to show my appreciation somehow. And then they're sitting and looking at this barren hill. And the hill is, I don't know, maybe like 500 foot tall. So it takes about an hour to climb and maybe a mile and a half long. So it's a sizable hill. That's big, right?
Yeah.
Walking up to the top and to the end and back is probably a 3-hour walk, right? And it had some trees on it, but very few. Very few. Most of it, maybe 90% was barren. And my father looks up and said, wouldn't it be nice to have a forest on this hill? And then the guy says, yeah, well, what kind of trees? And I said, well, pine. Pine wood, a certain kind of pine that grows. They said, well, how many would you need? And my father said, well, about 1 million. I said, yeah, if you can find a truck to actually truck it, I can give you 1 million trees. And then my father, he went to somebody else, I don't know whom, and he got the truck and he trucked in truckloads of the seedlings, these tiny trees. And then he would get all the high school students out to the hill on weekends. And because he was like a very well-respected math teacher and math carried a lot of weight, if he said, you better come and plant trees, kids showed up and planted trees. It wasn't official,
Right.
They weren't required. He just told them, you come and plant trees. Right, and the truck showed up, and then for about 2 years they planted a forest. And when I was born, the trees were about 1 or 2 years old. So they just finished by the time I was born. So I grew up with this. When I started to ski, I was 2.5 years old, and the trees reached my waist or my chest. Now the trees are 58 years old, and it's a giant ecosystem of deer and owls and fox and rabbits and giant trees. Like, it's a beautiful thing. You can see it from Google Earth. You can see. Came from my father, from math.
From a math teacher.
So in the days
like the best math story I've heard in my life.
Yeah, and in the age when, we are worried about the global warming and deforestation, you hardly hear success stories about reforestation or just forestation. Just take a barren land and make it into beautiful forest.
Yeah.
And then you can see when you go from the forested part to the unforested, because still at the top of the hill still bald. Mm-hmm. So about 2/3 of the height of the hill is forested, and the top 1/3 is barren. It's grassland. The amount of life is in the forest is like 10x more than on the barren part.
Wow.
Like everything is moving. There's birds, there's fox, there's owls, there's like, just stuff. It's almost like an arboretum or something,
Yeah. Thank you for that story. So talk about skiing a little bit more. You were an avid skier, still are, right? And then windsurfing, you can tell us about that a little bit?
So my father was an avid skier, and he kind of instilled that in me. So he taught me skiing when I was 2.5 years old, something like that. And I'm very happy that actually all 3 of my sons learned how to ski, and now my granddaughter has learned how to ski at age 2.5.
Oh, wow.
So the tradition continues. And then he started this tradition in a town that didn't have a tradition of skiing. Maybe 5 people skied. And then after he started doing this and teaching a bunch of high school students, now there's hundreds of people skiing, and they go to competitions and whatnot from a town that doesn't have that much snow. It doesn't have mountains. It has hills, but not mountains.
Oh, okay.
And so he just taught me to ski. And then there were some in the northern Carpathian Mountains close to the Ukraine border. There's a mountain called the Rodney Mountains, and from age 5 he would take me there every year, like once or twice. And these like big expeditions, like multi-day, maybe a week or 2 week long, carrying backpacks, carrying your whole gear. I go to this hut that has nothing. There's no electricity, no gas. You have to do everything. Carry wood, carry your equipment, your sleeping bag, and then you cut the wood there, you make fire, all of that, and just climb up and ski from all these peaks. So that was natural stuff for me, right? When I came to Portland, I saw Mount Hood, and I just took my skis, walked up to the top and skied down. And for me, it was like no effort. I didn't even question that this is a wise or not unwise. And after that, I told my colleagues, and they said, "What did you do?" I said, "Yeah, I just walked up the mountain and skied down." And then they couldn't believe it. Now I'm more careful. Now I carry beacons and all of that. But at the time, I was in my shirt and I put the skis on my back, and I did what I did in Romania. So it was also an escape because the town didn't offer that much. So there wasn't much entertainment, no TV, almost no radio. Yeah, you could play soccer on the street, get drunk, or maybe those were the 2-3 things that you could do as an adult. Or it was dirty and cold and, no colors like in the street. When you go here to like a shopping mall, you have all that visual stimulus. Imagine you just remove all of that.
Wow.
You remove every sign and everything is black and white or gray. And just wears on you.
Yeah.
And then we would go up the mountains. We are above the clouds, and there's this beautiful. We could have been in Switzerland, right? It's as beautiful as Switzerland. You have sunshine, pristine snow, girls, beautiful forests. Crystal clear water, unpolluted water you can drink. For me, it was like the biggest thing I could do in the wintertime to go in the mountains, like by far. Now, I have option of playing my $3,000 guitar or going to a Broadway show or going to the mountains. So I have more options, but at the time I didn't.
Yeah.
And then I became a racer. So I raced for many years. I had the best result. I was 5th in the country in the student division. And then I was in the army. So they picked me in the army's top team. And then we competed in the Winter Spartakiad, which was like a winter triathlon. And then we won the gold medal.
Wow.
But I didn't compete. I was alternate. So I was there with the team.
Yeah.
And so I skied a lot. And then I became a ski instructor for 5 years in Poiana Brașov, which was the top, the elite ski resort. And instructed many people skiing, like thousands, and I really enjoyed it. And I learned English in the process and German, and I practiced my German because I knew German from the Baroness. So I have very, very many very good memories with skiing. Like it had a huge impact on my life. Really, really. I mean, it's part of who I am.
Yeah.
Part of who I am. And then windsurfing I picked up at age 18.
Okay.
And I'm a good windsurfer, so I windsurfed a lot. I'm not as a good windsurfer as I'm a skier. Skier, I think I'm just, because I started so early in
As
life.
a child, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I just do it. It just comes naturally. Windsurfing, I still have to think, and I'm definitely not the best when I go windsurfing. There's some people way better than I am. In skiing, I feel I can, not speed-wise, because of course the modern racers can beat me in race. I haven't raced in 30 years. But in terms of coming down any terrain, I can just easily do it. It's really natural for me.
Yeah.
And I feel blessed, because I was exposed to so many storms and steep mountains and climbing and all that. So it's part of who I am. And then, so windsurfing, I'm doing it, in the gorge all the time. I really enjoy that. And at the time when I started windsurfing, I was 18. I also started karate, and I liked karate a lot. I was attracted to it, and I wasn't very good at it. I really had to struggle a lot. Like, I had colleagues who started with me, and in a few years they became black belts, and I was still like a yellow or green belt or something. I was like way behind them. I wasn't flexible enough. My torso wasn't strong enough. My legs were strong, but my torso wasn't. But I really, really wanted to be good, because I saw the elegance of the good karateka, and I wanted to become one of them. And then I stuck to it. I realized if I do something for decades and I gradually get better at it, eventually I can be very good. And I've been doing karate for, like 40 years now, almost.
Wow.
37 years. I've been teaching since 95.
Okay.
So it's almost like, 24 years. And that's also like part of my daily routine, almost daily routine. And I just want to advise your listeners, that there is a struggle to become good at something. It's like you see me with, I try to learn the guitar, and I'm not natural, and even my singing is not natural. And I'm mediocre, let's say, at best. But if you get good at something, it really gives you wings. Yeah. And those wings are so valuable that I think it's worth putting in those hours to become you can be a chicken, or you can become an eagle. And if you work at it and you grow your wings, you become an eagle, you learn how to fly, and you look back to your life as a chicken and say, I don't want to go back being a chicken. It's much better being an eagle. Yeah. I can still be on the ground if I want to, but I can fly for sure, right? Yeah. And soaring in a gorge with your wings spread, that is like something. Like, I went once windsurfing. It was like October, pouring rain. I'm the only guy on the beach. Go to Stevenson, Washington. I say, what am I doing here? Should I get in the water? It's cold, kind of miserable. Get in the water, and I just enjoy it. And then a bald eagle shows up and flies next to me and catches a fish. Wow. And I'm like, it just steps away from this eagle, right? And just catches that perfection of technique and just precision, just, nailing that fish. I was like, nothing even comes. I mean, had I gone to a movie that night, had I gone to play bridge or poker, or doesn't even come close to this deep enjoyment and satisfaction that gave me.
Well, life is a series of moments, right? And I think you've found a way to enjoy more of them than a lot of people at this point, which I think is inspiring to the people that maybe don't always take the time to do that.
You're right. I mean, it doesn't have to be sports, because I did sports all my life. For me, it's second nature. Some people don't like sports, and that's okay. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to have muscles. You don't have to have a sense of balance. But maybe you can do it through music. Maybe you can do it through painting. Maybe you can do it through, writing something, or poetry, or rap, or whatever, right? Yeah. But there's there's the average stuff, like the average life. You move, you eat, you drive, you work. And then there's this extra stuff when you go to this extra dimension. And that extra dimension is really, really the cream of the life. I mean, that's, if you don't have that, you're missing out. Yeah. Right. And I think if you ever pursue something to reach that, that's really, really, you will have a better life, I think.
I think that's well put. Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about education? How do you feel like our current system serves people? Like, for example, money management, business, things like that, that I think everybody needs. If you
Right.
want to have a family and a household, you need to basically know how to run a business because you have to manage money, you have to manage, rent and all of these different things. I feel like artists sort of, a lot of people feel like, oh, if I just get good, then I'll have an agent and a publicist and all this stuff, and they'll just do that for me. And that's sort of not the way life works these days. So
Right.
most artists have other jobs and things like that as well. As far as our current education system goes, kids go to kindergarten, they go through school, they go to college if they do. How does that serve people these days? Is it doing what it should? And how can we fix that?
Right.
If it's
right.
not.
Well, that's a loaded question.
I know.
No, it is. That's not a 5-minute question.
That's not a 5-minute question.
It's a very loaded.
Sure.
Well, about money management, communism was the worst example for managing money, right? Because the government was supposed to take care of anybody. They screwed it up. Nobody trusted the government. People didn't have money. Actually, at some point, money didn't even become a issue anymore because everybody was poor, equally poor. So the only thing they paid attention is education, right? Or maybe getting an egg or a piece of meat or some piece of cheese. But nobody had like big cars or big houses or big exotic vacations, nothing. I think the education in the US, it has its advantages. I think the colleges are really good. I think the higher up you go, the better they become. My sons who go to college, my wife who went to college in the US. I didn't go to college in the US. When I see how they taught them and the kind of material they had and the kind of creative stuff they had to do was really good. I really, really enjoyed that. I think in the in the elementary education, they could do a better job. I think they leave kids behind that they shouldn't be left behind. For example, just to give you an example, my parents, as I said, we are very poor. They would take kids hiking every weekend. Pretty much all their life. I'm not talking 10 times, like 1,000 times. I have boxes of photos of my parents with children and me in there going on a hike or going out playing soccer out in the hills or somewhere. All my 3 kids in 12 years of education in Hillsborough, they went to 5 field trips total. And even that's like 1 hour away and they're not supposed to take a pocket knife. They're not supposed to take matches. They're not supposed to do anything. So it's like really, really synthetic. I think, this closeness of nature is not taught here because of the liability. And also I think teachers there, they didn't do it for money and everybody was poor. So I think they just did it more out of passion of teaching. I think that they teach here better. The economics is taught better, I think. I think they teach about nature better and biology better. My kids learn stuff in 8th grade I didn't even know in 12th grade. We did better math in Romania. I think we were better in math. And when I took my kids back there to switch schools, because we did like a hot swap, 1 week they were here and 1 week they were there. And then for 3 months, all 3 of them said that the locals are better in math than they were. Same age. But there was a lot of bitterness also. A lot of kids, they would like the good teachers, but the bad teachers, they would badmouth and they would like shout bad words at them and be disrespectful. About the money management, I think I see my colleagues also at Intel that who are super organized people with Excel sheets, and when they go on a trip, they know everything. We actually had a test once that they asked, what kind of planning you're doing, and one guy pulled out a piece of paper that described his entire trip to London with his family 6 months ahead with the details of what bus they're going to ride, what they are going to Stonehenge, what they are going to Buckingham Palace, all of that, like down to the amount of dollars or cost and everything. Those people tend not to be very creative. And actually I find them boring. So I'm not actually associating myself with people who have long lists of stuff For their financial planning though, they probably have a better 401k than I do.
Sure.
Right? They will have more money when they will be old. That's for sure.
But do they need it all?
Do they need it all? Or do they know what to do with it? I don't know.
Could have enjoyed their life, their whole life instead of the last.
I don't know.
I don't know.
And about promoting your art, right? So I wrote this book, and I said Ildiko, my wife, that I think maybe I will be able to sell 250 copies, right? I sold 60 copies till now, and I don't know, maybe I will sell nothing more. I don't know. But definitely it's not a hot seller, right? Those people already, they like it. And then the marketing agent said that books don't sell on merit. Actually, nothing sells on merit. So I could have the world's best book out there and maybe 5 people buy it. And that's it.
Could
you could
happen.
have the best YouTube video, and if it doesn't become viral, nobody heard of it.
Right.
The song we just practiced, the Somebody Tell Me, Somebody Try.
Yeah.
That song has 300 views on YouTube.
Really?
Out of which I did 100 views. So only 200 other people saw this song, which I think should be a million view.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a meaningful song in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that poor guy who came up with this song, he got 200 views on this song, which is awesome, right? So then I tried to market my book, and I paid the money, pretty significant money, and we sold 0. So all the money went into 0 sales. And then I told him, I don't mind paying some money but at least I want to see some movement. But when it's 0 movement, so it's tough.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate that I actually have a day job.
You got a day job still.
And
so
I have
that's good.
a good income, and I can afford to do that. But somebody who's if I had to live off of the book I wrote, there's no way. I would starve.
Yeah.
I would die. So it's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough one. And the Lady Gaga and Madonna, I think they had a combination of business savvy and art. Right, they were both artists, and they also they knew what they're doing in terms of money, how to promote, how to advertise, whatever. Right, and for every one of those, there's probably 1,000 who are maybe equally good, and they are not known.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of great musicians, and I think a lot of people that lack confidence because they they just haven't found their stride. Let's talk about your relationships with drawing, art, photography, things like that. So when did those things start in your life? And
Well, my father liked to draw.
Okay.
So I saw he wasn't good at portrait drawing, but he did nature drawing. And before my birth mostly. So after my birth, he didn't do that many, but I found some of his drawings. So maybe I inherited some of that. My mother didn't draw at all. And I played a lot outside, and we used to take the dead batteries. These were D batteries, D cell batteries, and then smash them with a stone and take out the internal anode that there's a graphite rod in the middle of I don't know if you ever broke a battery apart.
not that kind, no.
It has a paste, an alkaline paste, which is like a yucky paste, and inside there's a round rod, which is I think made of carbon or something. It's black. And then you can use it as a chalk on cement. On a lighter color cement, you can use it as a black chalk. So I would take those and then wipe off that alkaline yuck with a towel and then use those as chalks. And then, so I would draw stuff on the pavement, and then I started doing these portraits of kids, and I was maybe 5 years old, 6 years old. I remember the first one, the one that I remember, my earliest memory is that I would do many lines. So I look at the face and then do lines, and then strengthen the ones that were the right ones. So I would do a lot of mistake lines, but then once in a while a good line would show up and say, oh, this kind of fits. So I would strengthen that. It's almost probably neural pathwork in the brain. You try all of these pathways, and then the ones that are successful, they become stronger.
Wow.
And then I would draw, and I didn't really become a respected artist till probably military service when I was 18, 19, because throughout high school I would draw, but there were others too who drew. I matured after a while, and I think my lines became more abstract and more simple. I used to draw many lines, and now I simplify things, and it's very hard to make simple drawings that are expressive. And if you get that person's face, then it's really good. It's really good feeling. With the least amount of lines, almost like saying something with the least amount of words, and you don't have anything extra.
Yeah. Or for guitar players doing a guitar solo with the least amount of notes.
Right. Well, yes.
Because sometimes you can say a lot without so many.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then also when I draw, for that period of time, I have this very, very close connection with the person I'm drawing. So it's almost like you're singing a duet and you resonate on some level.
The frequency.
So when I draw, I almost have to become them. And I'm not looking for a photographic drawing, right? Of course, a drawing cannot be as accurate as a photography, like a picture. But if you really understand that person and kind of look at the skin and the muscles and the expression, and there's something, if you catch it, then it's really, really good. And that's when people say, wow, right? That when I feel it, that's good, then it's really, really satisfying feeling. And for every good drawing, there's 100 bad drawings that I throw away. So I have this short story I can say about one of the portraits. I was in the army, and it was December, like brutally cold. This was in the southern Romania. And I used to draw like a lot of soldiers and some officers that they really had characteristic faces, and I used to draw on the desks. We had this, flat desks, and I would draw it on with pencil and then paper, whatever I could. On pavement I would draw. And then my lieutenant, he said, you have to draw my face. And I said, yes, comrade, I will draw your face. But he had these really, really boring faces. Like, he wasn't ugly, he wasn't beautiful, he wasn't handsome. He was like, you look at the face, you forget it. You look again, you forget it
sort
again.
Of generic, I guess.
Like a generic face, but I don't know. It was really nondescript face, almost like a potato.
Lacking
right?
character.
Lacking character, right? I mean, some people are ugly, but they're really ugly in a good way. Like, they're really ugly. And they say, wow, you are ugly, but that's cool. I can draw that. You have a big nose. You have like asymmetry in you have a crooked nose, or one eye is like down, other. This got nothing for him. And he was, not very smart, and it kind of, showed in his face. So he said, oh, I have plenty of time because I'm like the on guard, like the officer on duty, right, in the army base. And then you can come to my office at 3 p.m. and you can draw. And so I go in there. Outside is like brutally cold. I go inside and my fingers are frozen, and the guy's sitting there. And all these military drills that they do, they make these people into mules almost. Like, they can sit for hours, they can stand for hours, they can walk for hours. They don't question, so there's not, they are not the creative kind.
Okay.
And if you say, well, we'll stand in the wind for 3 hours, and you just have to look at this sign of, communism, they'll do it. They won't complain. And that kind of shows on their face. They have this face of like boredom and almost like, somehow, some kind of the life is not there anymore. They're alive, but not alive. So I go and I start drawing the guy. So I warm up my fingers and I start drawing, and I draw for an hour and a half. And the guy is just sitting motionless. I mean, he's the perfect person. He's like a statue. But the drawing is going nowhere. I mean, like I tried to put some life in it and nothing. And I said, sorry, comrade, lieutenant, it's not working. He said, can I see it? I said, no, I'd rather not. Can I make another one? I said, yeah, make another one. We have time. So I start second time. I go for half an hour. It's not going the right direction. I said, sorry, comrade, lieutenant. I said, yeah, take your time. The guy, he doesn't have to pee or drink or eat nothing. He can just sit there for 6 hours with the same body posture.
Wow.
He has all these stars on his shoulder and the hat and everything, the copper buttons. And so so usually I start from the eyes. So I go and I try from the inner corners of the eyes. So if I get this and the start of the nose, the top of the nose, that's where I grow my drawings usually from. But that didn't work in the first 2 attempts. And then I tried to like make some kind of geometry around his head, like a hull, I try like a dodecahedron and then a tetrahedron and the cube and some slanted this and that. Tried to get something out of this thing, right? So I was able to make a skeleton, like a 3D mesh of the main building things of his face. So I kind of squinted it. It's like, okay, he kind of looks like him. So, and then I kind of drew the eyes and the skin on that thing, and it came out a decent drawing. And I look at it and say, okay, it's okay, he'll be fine with that, right? But I don't like the drawing. Then I do all the shiny eyes, the shiny stars on his shoulder. I kind of, I want to make him happy. So I make the drawing and I give it to him, and I'm like really tired by now. And he said, oh, I look so handsome. He's like so happy, and said, yes, you look handsome, comrade lieutenant, and here. And so they have the roll call in the plaza, and I walk down from his office, and there's 2,000 soldiers on the plaza, all in like khaki things. We're waiting for the roll call. And there's a billboard, and the billboard has like red background and white letters with something like long live the communist youth, led by the supreme leader, Secretary General Nicolae Ceausescu, to the golden future, something like that, right? We had all these slogans everywhere.
Propaganda,
yeah. Right? And it was lit by neon lights and a big glass covering this whole thing. And the glass is frozen solid. So it's a white, imagine the most pristine white marker board lit in the dark night. So I walk down from this office and I look at this white surface, and I see his face appear just like Jesus on this white thing, right? And I look at it and it just doesn't go away. I see his face. So I lick my finger, and with like 5 lines, I draw his face.
Wow.
And the crowd goes wild, right? The crowd they just come to me, they like lift me up, they shout, they whistle, they like cheer, and it was the best drawing I ever made.
Wow.
And it melted next day.
How has art enriched your life? And if you want to tell the story about We Will Rock You, I think it was, in your schoolyard.
Right. Well, I can tell the story, and then I can tell you how it is, because it definitely enriched my life, big time. So the story about We Will Rock You is that when I was 17, they told us that we have to go to forced labor camp in Romania to build a canal between the Danube River and the Black Sea coast. And so all megalomaniac dictators have some mega project, either a pyramid or a great wall or a giant church or something, right? And then take all the poor bastards and they send them there to move rocks. And then they died there, and then 1,000 years later, the tourists come and pay money to see it, right? But that's kind of... So Ceausescu's project was to dig a canal through the desert. And so they told us you have to go down 3 months, no pay, crappy food, you dig. Right, just like in the Clint Eastwood movie, he said, my friend, there's two kinds of people: those with loaded guns and those who dig. You dig. So they told us to go, and then we didn't want to go, of course. And you take away the summer from 17-year-old boys when the summer is the most treasured 3 months of your time, right? No school, you can chase girls, you can play soccer, you can go. And then kind of a camaraderie formed, and then we started playing the guitar. And I didn't have a guitar, but go and sing in the backyard of the school, and that's about the time when We Will Rock You came out. And I was just drawn to this song, and I learned how to sing it, and I deciphered the lyrics, not everything, because I didn't know what "make you zombie someday" and whatever, somebody better put you back into your place meant. But whatever I could.
Yeah.
And then I was singing it with the radio and all that. And then so we left. We were supposed to go to the canal on June 1st. Almost like, imagine like being sent to Vietnam with a bunch of boys.
Right.
Of course, it's not murderous, it's not a war. But still, there's like a camaraderie. You're like the boys, they go somewhere far away.
Together, and that's the only family you have,
exactly.
And the only group you have.
And it changes the dynamic. I actually kind of understand the people who are Vietnam vets, are, after so many years, they still ride the motorcycles together and they put effort in, even though they spent 1 year in Vietnam together. 1 year, and 4 years later, still, that 1 year was really, really impactful in their lives. So we had the last day of school for us, and then we had a long recess, and then one of the guys brought a speaker and he put it in the window. So it was like a U-shaped building and had this courtyard, and he opens the window and puts up, this is end of May, puts up a speaker and then plays the guitar, and it was this song Libérance, and he's saying Libérance, 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 and then everybody's singing. I think it means something like freedom or something in French or whatever. And then, just cheering, and girls there, singing and all that. And then I take the microphone, and I'm kind of hidden behind the window because the angle wasn't very good to be seen, right? So I go there and I take the microphone and then we do that. And then, like 600 kids, they just get it, right? The whole crowd just goes like, it's like, buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise playing. And then they go, "We Will Rock You." So it was like a popular song, and so I sing it, and not very good, I did whatever I could, and I go down, I feel like I'm a rock star, I sang, I just just having the courage to sing it. I knew it was stressful, but I did it anyway, and then the girls look at me kind of flirtatiously, I was like the star of that moment, and then one of my colleagues says, "Hey, your father came down while you were singing." And he said, "Wow, and what did he think of my song?" He asked me, "Who is this idiot singing this thing?" And I said, "It's comrade teacher's own son." And I didn't say anything. And I was like, "Oh, well, looks like my father doesn't understand me when it comes to rock and roll."
Right.
So that's that story. About your second half of the question of how it influenced my life. I think all of these chapters in my life, they add an extra dimension. I think sports and outdoors, one dimension. Art is another dimension. Sometimes there's some crossover. There's some art in how the eagle flies.
Yes.
Or how the bees make their honeycomb, right? This is beautiful, right? But, then the family life is another one. Love life, relationships, children, growing. That's another chapter, another dimension in life. But art definitely is a very unique and very strong vector in my life. And I think it made me a better person. I think I'm more appreciative of art Like when I listen to a song that I played by the artist, I like it way better now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know the struggle it takes to actually learn it that well. Like, Hotel California by Eagles. I'm like, I've been singing for 20 years. I'm not quarter as good as those guys are. And when I listen to them, I say, wow, they're so good. They're still so good. Even like 40 years later, they're just so good, right? And when I watched Bohemian Rhapsody movie, it's like I lived every moment of it.
Yeah.
And had I not sang the songs, had I not tried to play the guitar on that songs, I would not appreciate it that much. And also, I think it affects my thinking. So I think, math and music have commonalities, these patterns and repetitions. And maybe the reason I'm doing the harmonic swing for Burning Man with the bowling ball is because it has to do with the length of the strings on the piano and how they have harmonic octaves and all that, right? I know that actually I gave a talk at Intel once about writing good code and how art and beauty affects how you write your code, because you can write code ugly and you can write code beautiful. And when you use your iPhone and underneath those icons there's some code running, some poor guy wrote it somewhere in Palo Alto, that code could have been written beautifully, could have been written ugly, and maybe you don't see the difference, but those people write it and those people actually have to improve upon it. When another person comes and says, I need to fix his code, it makes a huge amount of difference whether it was architected well, whether it's modular, whether it's expressive, whether it's terse. All of these things that we have in music and drawing and sculpting, like Michelangelo said that, you're done when you're nothing you can remove, right? Not when there's nothing you can add to the sculpture, when nothing is left to be removed. Same with code, actually today I taught a lady about programming how to take a 50-line code and do it in 4 lines, right?
Wow.
And she was wowed by it.
Right.
And I said, that's how you spend time more thinking and then go down to the essence. And it's so beautiful and it's parameterized and you can change it. And it's just, you become a happier person. And I see a lot of sad people. Some people who are like kind of stuck in their daily routine of mediocrity. And you can see it on their face. Even the way they walk, they kind of drag their feet, head down. You tell them a joke, they don't get it. There's a rainbow, they don't look at it. It's sad. When you have a beautiful rainbow, nature put it there for you so you can look at it for 1 second. Don't look at your freaking iPhone, right? Look at the rainbow. Yes. Look at it. There's
It's a wake-up call.
Yeah. And if they don't do it, then it's actually probably you could make financial investments on the company workers' ability to recognize beauty. So let's say you go to 100 companies at 5 p.m. when people are going home. And let's say you magically put a rainbow in the sky or you fly a kite or something beautiful, right? If nobody looks at your stuff, you probably don't want to invest in that company, right? If they all look at their phones and they drag their feet and they just want to get in their cars, there's something missing.
Yeah.
Right? If you have a child playing a violin and the sun shines on that child, imagine on the street like a 7-year-old girl playing the violin. If an engineer walks out of a company and doesn't look at that child for a minute, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
It's something wrong. They're missing it. Right? So it definitely influenced, I think, my appreciation of art, my designs, both in drawings or in woodwork or in building stuff. I think I'm looking for harmony. I'm looking for simplicity. It influenced my karate. I want to be efficient and beautiful because somehow in nature, whatever is beautiful is also efficient.
Well, anything that works well is sort of spawned from something already existing in nature. Is that not true?
Right.
Da Vinci's drawings about flying machines and stuff like that were based on the nature of wings and studying that stuff. So you can't reinvent the wheel, but maybe improve upon it. And I think that's what most people are trying to do.
Right.
And I think it's a more elegant way to live is to draw from the past and what exists and do your own spin on it and then be authentically you as much as you can.
And in martial arts, we talk about efficiency. Of course, martial arts is about self-defense and all that. But then at some point, actually, that is less relevant. So if you know that you're never going to be attacked and you never have to use karate or judo, whatever you're doing in your life, the odds of me using karate for self-defense is very small. And that's not what I'm doing it for. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have that skill, but then it becomes almost like this pursuit of perfection of how can you make your body make these moves with the least amount of effort, the straightest, smoothest, most harmonic. So it's almost like a dance or music, or sometimes I actually do the katas on music. I just, try to dance to it. And then when you get it, it's so satisfying. And again, these things that I'm doing, and maybe because I grew up without entertainment and I had to come up with my own entertainment. So I don't have a TV. Even now, I can't even turn a TV on. We don't have a TV. I don't need it. I have like 50 projects in my brain. All I need is free time.
Right.
A pencil, that's all. I can entertain myself for next 10 years, I don't need it. So because I had to live with it, I had to stand in line for food for, 10 years. And I had to come up with brain games to keep myself entertained while standing in line. And, I'm trying to come up with this stuff that when I do it, it's so satisfying. That's better than entertainment is fed to you because it's part of you. So I think you saw a YouTube video. They show your brain when you listen to music and your brain when you create music or when you play music. It's like an order of magnitude more brain activity. Right? Yeah. And I know when we are playing the Chardash by Monte with you that I still suck at. My brain goes on this high alert, like at the edge of my skill.
Attention to detail is...
My skill is at the edge, and I'm still not perfect, and I want to be perfect. But that pushing that edge is like so good because I feel that my brain needs that, and I keep trying, and I'm not good at it enough, but I keep trying. And if I wouldn't have that, and I would just passively listen to music or not listen at all, I would be a way worse person. So I really appreciate you teaching me guitar.
It's my pleasure.
No, really. It means a lot to me.
Well,
yeah, and also for my sons, right?
Yes.
Because I was proactively pushing, just like my father pushed me to learn German from the lady Baroness. I was pushing my kids, very well how, because I appreciate you as a guitar teacher and also as a person, and I knew that my sons will learn good stuff from you. And now, they're playing guitar, and I keep reminding them, don't forget that you learned this from Danny, right? And when you get a date with a girl because of your guitar skills, remember, send Danny a thank you card, right? So it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me, right? Oh, one more thing so my wife stutters. Ildiko stutters, and when she talks to me, she doesn't stutter, but when she's like in an awkward social situation or when she has to speak in public, now less so. I mean, it used to be really bad, and she worked at it, and she's getting better. Now, when she was a kid, she wanted to sing, and they told her, no, your voice is bad, because in Eastern Europe, many teachers were like talking down on kids. Like in the US, they're more supportive, sometimes to a extreme, maybe it's even too much, when they do crappy stuff, you say whale of a job, and that may not be the best thing. In Romania it was the other way. Everybody sucked, and then some people took it, some didn't take it. For me, I didn't care. If they say my drawing sucks, fine, I'll do it again. Sucks, I'll do it again. Sucks, I'll do it again. And Ildiko, she couldn't really let her voice out. She had this kind of tension in her vocal cords because of the stuttering or whatever, and then she couldn't let her voice out. So she grew up, it says, I don't know how to sing. And at age 40 or 45, I said, why don't you try to play piano? I said, I cannot play the piano. I said, why can you not play the piano? I said, well, I've been told all my childhood I cannot play the piano because I have like clumsy fingers. I said, come on, everybody should be able to play, Old MacDonald's had a farm, something, right? So she started taking piano lessons, and then she's getting better and better. Like, she's not perfect, but she's better. And then she said, well, now that you're playing piano, why don't you sing a song? I said, no, I cannot sing. I said, come on, just say Old MacDonald, something, right? And then she started singing a few songs. And because I think she was in tune with the piano, and then her own vibration in the chest kind of tuned up to that,
sure.
Then she could sing in tune. And then I almost cried when I heard my wife sing after 25 years of marriage.
Wow.
Right? And it's like, wow, because she has a nice voice. I like her voice when she speaks. She has a very warm voice, but she just had this internal blockage that she cannot sing. Actually, she can sing.
Yeah.
And I would like to open up her even more, let it all out, right? Because life is short, and just, enjoy what you have. And so these things are actually very meaningful to me. They strike deep in my nervous system. It's not superficial.
Thank you for that. I see a lot of people, I teach people of all ages, and I'll see some people that took piano lessons as a kid, and their piano teacher told them they did bad on their recital and they never thought they could play an instrument again. And then they just wanted to play guitar one day and came in and they're like, I think I want to play guitar, but I probably can't because my piano teacher when I was 11 told me. I was bad at music or whatever. So, that stuff sticks with people. And I think almost anybody can sing. They just have to want to, and then they have to sing with their voice, which sometimes is a speaking voice more so than a operatic singing voice or a melodic voice. But I think people can sing in different ways and learn how to use the voice they have to sing if they really want to, and I think they should. And I think creating art and making art, makes the world better. And I appreciate you as a person, and you've taught me a lot and been very supportive. When I did my tour in Europe, you were one of the kind of key components to helping make that happen. So thank you for that.
Tour, the European rock tour.
Yeah, you have a skill that you can do whistling. I don't think a lot of people can do all of these different whistles. I don't know if you want to do that. I can turn the mic down a little tiny bit.
I can do that. So this is the owl. This is what I do with my fingers. This is a gray dove we have in the Balkans. It's called the Balkan dove. And then there's some songbirds like. And the frog like.
So these are the kind of things that you can do if you don't have TV.
Right.
You can learn how to do these things.
Right.
Is there anything that I should have asked you about that I didn't?
Well, I think I can talk personally about you, like your influence on me, because for those of you who are listening, we are sitting in a relatively small room full of junk. So there's like guitars and diplomas and tools and strings and beams and ski equipment and ladders and a whole bunch of bows and arrows and pen pipe and an airplane and broken rocket planes up there and a bunch of tools and all that stuff, right? And then he has been coming here for many, many years. And we really developed a very strong relationship that I feel. I think we understand each other very well. And when we play some of the songs, we get it. We get that rhythm. And it's so good. Like when we do the Hotel California, the last solo, we get in this rhythm. It's just, I'm having a high. It's almost like being on drugs. I never took drugs. I don't know the feeling of drugs, but I think those who have, maybe you can do the same experience just by playing a duet with Danny. and really, and many times I go to concerts. Ildiko likes to go to concerts, so I go with her to concerts. Some are very good, some are mediocre, and we pay $60 for a ticket. And I'm sitting there, I said, I wish I would be with Danny playing Eagles, because even though I'm not that good, I'm okay, but I'm not that good in music, but I enjoy it. I think my joy of music is way bigger than my knowledge of music. And that's thanks to you, because you encouraged me, and you let me do any song I wanted. You didn't say sing this song or sing that song. You said do whatever you want, and I like the freedom. And sometimes I would pick simple songs that you were bored at, and you didn't show boredom, even though you probably were bored. And then sometimes I picked songs which were too challenging for me, and probably was over my head. I liked it. And I saw some of my kids, when they took flute lessons or piano lessons, that the teaching was so strict that it turned them off.
Yeah, I don't think a curriculum works for music education for most people in the most effective way. Yeah,
so for like really disciplined children, like I just came back from Japan from karate, and the kids are really disciplined there. Mm-hmm. Like you have 5 kids, age 4, all standing for like half an hour, not doing anything. So you look at them and say, yeah, I could have them, sit in front of the piano for 2 hours and do like the curriculum-based stuff. My kids were like, they're jumping all the time. jumping, tumbling, walking, or climbing up the walls. You can't put them to do like the same thing. It has to be something for them. So actually now I remember what I wanted to say. So I really appreciate the fact that you let me kind of let my craziness out and you didn't put any barrier on it. For me, I was looking forward to the guitar lessons. I was never like, oh, I didn't practice my chapter 2 thing. And you never said, did you practice chapter 2? No, I didn't practice. I did something else. Maybe I played B.B. King and, I just felt like it and it felt better. And many times I pick a song because I enjoy singing it. I enjoy playing it. Not because I'm good at it. I just enjoy it. And that one is good for me because it carries me forward. Right. Yeah. If I have to do something out of chore, and after I can't do it for decades. I can't. And the thing that I popped back in my hand. What I wanted to say is that I really, really believe that U.S. should teach music in schools, like serious music. And so my three boys went to public schools in Hillsboro, Oregon. 12 years each of the 3 boys. In 12 years, they didn't learn one song in school. One, right? The only thing they learned was from private music teachers. My oldest son did flute and he became good at it. He made it to the band. So if you make it to the band, then you learn music. For the rest of them, it's pretty much zero. And I don't see why they couldn't teach the kid. They should. I mean, music is it's a gift from nature or God, right?
Right.
Why wouldn't you embrace it? Why? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I think it can help people in a lot of ways.
It should be part. You have to play some instrument. Just doesn't matter what it is. Just do it. And not for like 20 minutes a week. Like every week, 2 hours, you do music. 12 years. That's it. I was paying for my children's music education all their childhood. 12 years, all of them, right? My oldest one maybe 8 years old. But still, because it's valuable. It's super valuable.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Right.
Why wouldn't you buy them like expensive sneakers or basketball shoes or something? Or have that money, you can pay a music teacher and let them experience this amazing gifts that the brain has, the ability to appreciate and make music. I think they should do it. And unfortunately, those who have the opportunity to go to a band, they become good, and those bands are really good, or high school band. But again, that's only 5% of the student population. None of my 3 kids got anything in music, 0. There were hardly any lessons. They didn't take it seriously. The teacher wasn't good. I don't know what happened, but they didn't learn anything. So if I could change one thing, I would have like mandatory music from K to 12, everybody.
That would be impactful, I think, on a lot of things. Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing.
Sure.
I love your stories and your music and your art. And so I wish you many more years of great success and fulfillment with that. And your book, I definitely hope everybody will check this out. So The Siblings and Other Stories.
Right.
Thank you. Gyuszi.
Okay, thank you.
Find out more at artmedianorthwest.com. ARTMEDIANW.com.